Hello, and welcome to Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast. Kevin?
Yeah, that's my name, and
That's
I don't know. This is like episode 73, and we still don't know. We still don't have an intro.
We do. We have the
Or a
intro of
patter.
me demanding that I get to be the one to say, hello, and welcome
Yeah.
to Shite Talk, an Irish
get the
history podcast. Yeah, because I've worked on that cadence.
You have.
I've got, that's down now, and then after that, I just turned into, like, a drunken squirrel. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's blah, 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 blah. But I've got the intro down there. I go, oh, this might actually be serious content. Not at all.
No, you've got the coveted hello spot again. You got it back this week.
Which also, the only reason that's a thing is because my friend Dara in season 1 said, I love how Kevin starts every episode by going, hello. And I was like, okay, what I'll do then is just take that from him. Like most of my material on stage is the stuff that Kevin's done. And I'm like, I could take that and better it.
Yeah. Who's gonna know? Well, fair play to Dara for being probably one of our 10 listeners in season 1. Is Dara?
Yeah, I don't think he listens now. Now that we're somewhat successful, he's like, nah, I'm tuned out. I only really like their earlier stuff. Those first two seasons.
I really liked it when it was dog shit. Once they started figuring out how to make the audio sound good, I was out. I checked out. It was like real lo-fi podcasting.
Yeah,
but
like 2 microphones, you fancy bitches.
Sellouts. That was like when Dylan went electric. Because Dara can be a boy's name or a girl's name. I think it's one of those names that whichever one you meet first, you think it's... Because it's a rare enough name. It's like Irla.
That is a... you know what it is? No, it's just that I know some Daras. And then I think that's a way more common name. I was like, no, it's actually not, because I've realised anytime I mention it in like England or like Dara O'Brien or... or in America, and it's like Dara or Dara. And you're like, no... Can you not just pronounce things incorrectly to make it correct? Could you not just like call like how do you spell it? It's like cat and then hall, and how do you pronounce it?
But we were being fairly average this week. We were in the average point of the charts.
I wouldn't say average. I'd say we're doing pretty well considering the fact that we're up there punching with the Joe Rogans of the world. But granted, it's just in the Irish charts. It's not the rest of the world. It's that's true. Charts.
Yeah,
and it's usually just on one day of like the day we release. If we time it well enough that everyone like downloads that day particularly, then sometimes we can do okay.
Yeah. Sometimes I see us above like the big dogs. I'm like, wow, look at us doing better than an American podcast that still manages to be well up the charts this is our own territory, and they're still like slapping us around most of the time as an afterthought, as an overspill.
But it's that you see how like corporatized and like mainstream that podcasts become. Because do you remember like 2 years ago there was just very few in Ireland anyway, and now there's like, hey, the Irish Independent we have podcasts for everything that no one reads anymore, and you're like, well, that's just things that no one are listening to now. That's not. I can see your numbers; they're not good, but there's loads of money behind.
Yeah, but we've been crushing it in the Cayman Islands ever since that Sean Quinn episode. We've been like in the top 10 in the Cayman Islands.
Which it's been making me very apprehensive about doing any of those ever again.
That's it. I don't know. I don't know what that means for us, but I met your friend.
I'd be worried about if I was doing like an alien or like a Irishman in the US government. And then all of a sudden, like Area 51, we were like the second biggest podcast. Like, what's the number one? It's like, probably Rogan. But the number 2, just for today, is Shite Talk, an Irish history podcast.
But it reminded me of my friend's band from Dundalk when we were teenagers, the Curtain Thieves. Do you remember the Curtain Thieves?
Great
name.
Yeah,
it was a great name.
I don't.
Yeah.
I was more of a Beached Whales fan.
Oh yes, big shout out the Beached Whales and the Curtain Thieves, 2 bands that haven't existed in about 15 years. But
I've met Beached Whales. I saw them just at Longitude or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And we walked in, and one of my friends, Dylan, only has one leg, which is also a great way to hide and sneak alcohol into a festival, because they'll pat you down, they'll pat me down, they'll pat anyone down who has like all of their limbs. But if you're missing one of your legs and tie your jeans up into like a knot, you can just stuff a load of naggins into that.
That is handy. That's a handy tip.
It was good. It's the one benefit of not having a leg. But we got in there and we just randomly walked by a tent and was like, people are kind of moving and shaking, shucking and diving and all whatever the cool words are. But we
what are these salsa beats that are getting into my blood?
Hundreds of people in there having a good time. We're like, hold on now. And we walk in, I think they're playing that was a Cool Down song. And everyone's just within 20 seconds we're all up on tables dancing, which is weird because Dylan can't support that. It's it's two crutches and one leg, but he's loving it, and everyone else is looking at us going, is this safe? And we're like, we're feeling the music.
Step off, you narc.
One of the best Dundalk bands ever, and eventually historically, chronologically, they would have some of the members turned into
one of the members turned into Just Mustard.
That's some. One is some.
That's some. All right, one is some. Okay, but I was going to say that one of the other members actually got engaged yesterday. So congratulations, Dara Stanley. If you're actually, there's another Dara.
There you go.
It's all tied in together. I don't know if Dara listens to this, but yeah, congratulations, and Katie Ann. Well done, the both of you. But that was a tangent about. Oh yeah, no. The point of that story was that the other Dundalk band, the Curtain Thieves. I remember when we were teenagers, they got onto the charts they got everyone to go into like CD World or whatever it was in Dundalk at the time and just buy their CD, and like that 30 or 40 odd teenagers going in had enough purchasing power to get you onto the charts. I figure it's the same in the Cayman Islands. Like if 10 people in a courtroom were listening to that episode about Sean Quinn, all of a sudden you're number 2 in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah, it's like what I've been saying about the fact that we were often in the top 25 in Vietnam and like Thailand. I was like, we could go over there because I'd love to do a gig to 7 Irish people, 7 expats.
If we get all of our 7 fans from every corner of Vietnam.
And if they bring one friend each.
Yeah, it's a bringer show, and
then plus only you don't get to perform at this one. You have to bring someone to watch.
Like you have to bring someone to our gig.
But then the barman, and he counts as he's not paid in, but he's technically listening when he's not serving. So and he likes it.
He's an audience member.
If Kevin, if you're like me, and after the show, when the staff come up to you and you're like, I actually didn't think it was that bad. That means more than the paying audience. That means a lot more.
Yeah, they see a lot. Actually, that is genuinely true. Whenever the bar staff is like, not bad set, you're like, damn.
I was joking there, and then I realized halfway through as I was saying it, I was like, actually, no, that does genuinely mean that's a lot better than like someone who's sober, who works all the way through a lot of acts versus someone who's drunk on a night out and just been like,
sure,
okay.
Or even
enough. I take it back. I love bar staff everywhere. Well, I do.
Even the empty platitudes of of other comics, the hollow smiles and the glad handshakes. They mean nothing.
I've been in this game too long. I know what those facial contortions look like because I do them myself every time someone comes off a stage after a bad set, and you're like,
nice
I like
one.
That nice one, good energy, or whatever. I was like, don't fucking pander to me. I know I'm not good.
Your serpent words and waspy tongue have nothing to me. And then you walk up to the bar and they're like, yeah, it wasn't bad, mate. I've seen worse. You're like, Jesus. Maybe I'll put the noose away for another week. Maybe let's see where this goes. I don't know what the point of any of that was, but
you know what we should do before we launch into an episode?
What should we do?
Give a shout out to our 2 Patreon members for the week.
Oh yeah, yes.
So right now, I'd like to give out a shout to Fernando Frias. And that's not just because he has a cool name, it's because he's the last person to donate, and I don't want to scroll back through the email much longer. And for the other person, Evan Prendergast.
Oh, yes.
And then also just a big thank you again to our lovely guest from last week.
Yes. A big thank you to Isabel Duck for last week's episode about the moral panic of miniskirts. That was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We had a few messages from people being like, I can't disgusted that we didn't know who Twiggy was.
Yeah.
Didn't realize this was such a cultural divide. Well, listen, let's start the episode. So here's this week's episode, all about the Schism of Ballygawley.
Gather around now, you're in for a story. Old tales of lore, on search of a glory. The history and mystery of lads, lasses and all. Discoveries and voyages, the rise and the fall. Follow me now,
Jason, what's the only bad thing about the GAA season?
The fact that it ends, Kevin.
That's exactly right. The fact that it's not 12 months long.
Well, unfortunately, Kevin, if you know anything about the GAA, you would know that it is 12 months long. They actually fit about 13 months of matches into the space of 12.
Yeah.
You've set that up. I mean, I don't want me to jump in and ruin the podcast very quickly. You know nothing of GAA.
No, listen, you're going to be carrying most of this episode with your GAA knowledge, but yeah, the main problem with the GAA
is if to say
season,
this podcast is not getting off the ground and moving anywhere.
This will be a 10-minute episode. It's not 12. It doesn't go all year long, but that was the case until the young man.
It does literally go all year long.
The games are only played between like what?
No, if you're going to play at your county level, which is like the serious part of it, at the All Ireland level, you're doing that as well as then playing all the league matches. So it's not just the All Ireland. There's the league matches and all of those, and then there's your club matches. And if you're from a good club, that means you're playing your say Carlow, right? If you play in the Carlow league and then you win the county championship there, then you have to go and play all the teams in Leinster. Then you have to win that, and then play the All-Ireland tournament. And then on top of that, play all the league matches with your county. And then on top of that, play the actual GAA All-Ireland matches that you're thinking of. You're not thinking of the rest of the iceberg. You're thinking of the sexy Titanic part of it.
What's the only bad thing about the GAA season, Jason? Is that's right, it's not a year long. Or so was the case until a young man named Barry Canavan. See, that was just a little bit of fun banter to start off the episode. I've no idea how long the GAA season is.
Have I made you lose confidence in your story now?
Absolutely not. No, I'm as confident. It's not as if I was like, geez, I really know a lot about GAA. And then you question me. I was like, oh no, this house of cards is falling down. I don't know anything about the GAA. But what I do know is a good story. And one such story is the time Barry Canavan came up with a life-changing idea. In the late 1970s, Barry and a few of his mates decided to set up a tournament during the winter off-season months for the parish of Ballygawley, County Tyrone. And the parish would split into... I'm going to be using the words parish and town interchangeably for this, which will get confusing. But basically, the townland of Ballygawley split into 4 sides, and they all then played each other in a tournament over the winter seasons to keep them honest.
Okay.
Now, I couldn't actually find out what the other 3 sides were called, but it was Glencull on one side, and then the other 3 parishes that made up Ballygawley on the other side.
I have a feeling then that in the local area, was it Glencull? Those boys weren't very well liked. It was like, hey,
well, we'll get into it.
Let's do a competition where we get 4 teams, and then we'll have all the guys from Glencull, and then we'll have everybody else.
Well, we'll get into it, but yeah, it was so there's 4 teams, they play off against each other. I just don't know what the other 3 teams were called. They will be referred to as the Ballygawley 3 as we go on. But things went grand for a few years. The quarters of Ballygawley would play each other over the winter break. The lads get extra game time. Our lads have games to watch, and it's a bit of honest rivalry between the sides.
The men have a couple more chances a year to show their sporting acumen and virility to get the attractive women from the town.
Exactly.
It all makes sense.
Yeah, during the hibernation months, when usually other lesser men they'd be walking off having not got a mate for Christmas, patting on the back into the dugouts, be like, don't worry, man, you'll get her next year, you'll get her next season. Not the men of Ballygawley. They were out there peacocking on the frozen grounds, still trying to hook up for New Year's Eve. But
I'll give you my jersey. I'll buy you a pint.
Eventually, Barry Canavan moved over to New York City, New York State, America. But he kept up to date with the tournament via letters from back home, which is how people communicated in the late 70s. And it was in one of these letters that he heard about the great Schism of Ballygawley. In 1982, a young man by the name of Mickey Hart from Glencull had been sent off during one of the games. Do you know Mickey Hart?
Yeah, he went to the Eurovision. He represented Ireland very well.
You're thinking of Mickey Joe Hart.
I know who I'm thinking of.
I'm well aware of who I'm thinking.
Is that a relation to the, I don't want to say, is it Tyrone manager from back in the day?
That's
at eventually...
the very man.
Yeah, there you go. It's
the
actually
Tyrone
him.
Manager.
Gotcha.
It's him, yeah.
Look at me with my knowledge. I'm actually going to surprise myself with my amount of GAA knowledge because I've got one thing correct so far.
Excellent. Well done. What about that big rant at the start with the GAA season?
I assume you'll cut it out.
No, I'm leaving it all in. But yes, that's the very man. A young Mickey Hart gets sent off for some foul. The actual nature of the foul has been lost to time. But whatever it was, normally this wouldn't be a big deal.
Oh, he did something fucked up.
He probably did, and when I say lost to time,
because the idea
can't.
of being lost in time, we can find stuff that's happened in history from hundreds of years ago. You're talking, what year is this?
No, I just said it's lost to time because I don't know what it is. Like, definitely it's still discussed.
What I mean is lost to time is the fact that he's done something wrong and now he's successful, so he doesn't want people knowing what it was, because if it was not his fault, we would know what it was.
I don't think he's shy of a couple of dirty tackles. I'd say, he probably went in hard with the boot on some frosty ground. But whatever it was, normally it wouldn't be a big deal. You get a slap in the wrist, life would go on. But the powers that be wanted to give Mickey Hart a suspension, and not just a suspension from this, the winter tournament, but a suspension that would start during the actual season for when he went back to play for Ballygawley. And the lads weren't happy. So Barry Canavan would later speculate that there were other feelings at play here. He said that his younger brother, Peter Canavan...
I was about to say, is this Barry Canavan?
You were just about to say
is that you could, if we don't have the video recorded, and I was about to... Is this Peter Canavan fucking dad or brother or what?
The third time I said Canavan, he's like, hang on a moment. Yeah, this is Peter Canavan's older brother.
No, I am fucking on fire here. This is the...
I figured you'd know some of this, yeah. So Barry started off this tournament. His younger brother is the celebrated throne player Peter Canavan, but at the time he was a young lad. Maybe he was playing he hadn't got to senior level yet, so I think he was maybe 17 or so.
But he'd already lost all of his hair.
Yes, at this stage he was confirmed bald. But so Barry would later speculate that there was other feelings at play with trying to punish Mickey Hart. He said that his younger brother Peter had been accosted by the management, saying he'd never played as hard for Ballygawley as he did when he played for Glencoe.
They'd said that they were heartbroken.
Is that a Mickey Joe Hart song?
No, I'm saying that after the suspension, the team had said that they were heartbroken.
Oh, Jesus Christ. But so here, the management, during the normal season, this is the team, that the board of managers for the Ballygawley team. And that team splits into four to play off against each other in a little friendly game over the winter. But as the years go on, the board management start to get bitter because the lads play harder for their the quarter parish than they do for the team, or so they perceive.
No, which is in that rant at the beginning of what we were talking about. At the very beginning of the episode. That's what I'm talking about when people are like, but sure, it's only 10 games a year or something. No, because if you're from, whatever about Dublin, and maybe still it's a giant area, you can probably go around and not see the local people in the pub all the time. You can just go to a different part in the city where people don't care about GAA or sports. But if you're from Kilkenny or Carlow or just they're my local areas, but anywhere around the country, it means so much more to win a Club All-Ireland or to win something for your parish.
Yeah.
Because even then you're think about it, no matter where you are in Ireland, if there's a town 5 minutes away, and even though Dublin's 2 hours away, there's a town 5 minutes away, and you hate those people more than anything. They're the exact same people as you. They just live in a slightly more concrete area. And you're right, they're the townies. That town's 1,000 people. Well, I'm from a village of 200, so they're the big city slickers to me.
Yeah, you're touching on a lot of points that we're going to bring up in this episode. You're in the complete right mindset. I will point out, though, that you just there said that you were from Carlow, Kilkenny, which is, you're you hate your neighbours, but also you've claimed 2 counties for yourself there.
No, it's because of my respected time working on Carlow, Kilkenny local radio, KCLR 96 FM. Big shout out.
It's because of your time smuggling goods over the River Barrow.
It's because of
for tax reasons. You lived on both sides. Loughlin Bridge, it's a bridge, okay? It's on both sides of the river.
No, I'm definitely from Carlow and take pride in that. It's just the fact that anytime anyone's ever said, where are you from? And I'm about an hour south of Dublin. They're is that Cork? And no, it's halfway between Cork and Dublin. They're I've never, and you're and this is not talking to an American. This is talking to someone from Laois. They're
of course,
you know that place right beside that, there's 40,000 people.
Beside you.
The hunchbacks, the eating scallions. just walking around, kind of dragging their knuckles off the ground, breathing from their mouth.
Oh yeah, the hurlers, the cats.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So exactly what you're saying. Yeah, there's more pride when you play for your club team. But now we're talking about down to the next level. This is the club team, and they've now split into 4 subsections, and the lads are playing harder for their, like, you know, the 100 people that live in the field next to them, and the management's getting a bit annoyed, and they've chosen to come down hard on Mickey Hart to punish those stivels of Glencoe, to get them back in line.
So my local team, underage, it's called Michael Davids. Great man.
Yeah.
Now, it's the combination of a couple of parishes together. So it's Old Loughlin, Ballinabrana and Loughlin Bridge. But when you get to senior level, they all have their own individual senior teams. So up until under is it 18 or under 21 or whatever, you get all the 3 towns and villages together. And then directly afterwards, they go and say, fuck ye, we're rivals.
Yeah. And it's only right and proper.
Yeah, it should be. That's the way Ireland should be. That you should, like, never mind all Ireland championships. Just do county championships, and after that, no one really cares.
Yeah, you should form a team with the first, I'd say about the first 20 people that you meet. If you leave your house and start walking in a straight line, those first 20 people they're your ride or die. And everyone else, it's you against them. Everyone else can fuck it.
It's a common thing that people say about, like, the English football team. That, like, and the same as, like, any country you go to where the team's, like, pretty big or whatever, but you, like, so if you're from, like, Huddersfield or Barnsley, or so if you're from Plymouth in England, some team that's like, right, you're never going to win anything, like, at a club level. So then you support the national team, because that's your only way of, like, not even winning something, but just success, because it's, hey, we get to support really good players. We never get any of those players. Our players are always shit in comparison. Yeah. But you're like, those fans would all trade English success for a local club team success. It's the same thing. It's just that the bandwagon scum who can't win anything locally have to jump on to the county level or the club team or the national team, like that kind of thing.
Right. Now, but I asked you this before, and this question's at the end of this episode, but we can put it in here, or we'll see how it goes. But I asked you before, would you rather see Ireland win the Euros or Carlow win the All-Ireland? And you said Ireland win the Euros hands down.
Yeah, I'm not a GAA fan.
Yeah, but, like, something about county pride has to.
It only works. Everything I'm talking about only works within the confines of the exact same sport.
Same sport.
Don't start comparing one to the other, because it's not fair. Because I will go with soccer over my own mother at that stage.
And to be honest, well, I'd love to see your mother win the All-Ireland. That'd be amazing.
I'd have her up front for the national team. She'd be more use than Conor Salmon.
Mayo gets to the All-Ireland for the 12th year in a row, only to be beaten in the final by a lone Carlow woman.
In fairness,
with a hurl.
She had made them great sandwiches and tea beforehand, and it was 70 minutes.
Yeah.
Of them just nibbling away and her just trying to figure out which end she was kicking the ball into.
But So this is, so you're in the right mindset. They're annoyed at Glencoe for whatever reason it was. And what should have been a routine punishment turned into the catalyst for the Great Schism, when the people of Glencoe said that they wouldn't accept the suspension. Cathal McInerney of Glencoe, he was the chairman of the Ballygawley GAA board at the time, and the rest of the board asked him to leave when they were discussing what to do with Mickey Hart. And he said, if I walk out that door, I won't be back. And they said, well, we'll see how we get on without you.
Which that was actually a Mickey Joe Hart song.
This does all sound like a Mickey Joe Hart. Where is he from? I feel like he's from Dublin.
No, Donegal, I think.
Is he? Yeah. Well, Mickey Joe Hart.
Do you remember? We weren't friends, listeners, in DCU. We went to the same college at the same time. It's what, 10,000 people? He used to play. He had a residency every Monday that he would go down and play, but because he wasn't a famous, like, solo artist in terms of, like, original songs, he had the song that somebody else wrote for him for the Eurovision. He had one or two of his own songs that weren't any good, and then, no offense, but they weren't. And then he had covers, and he just went down. I haven't been on the Eurovision, and then he just started doing covers in pubs, which is what he was doing before the Eurovision. So he had just.
I mean, the Eurovision is not really good for your career.
No, but you know what it is great for? given all of the DCU New Bar students the chance to just scream consistently, "Play We've Got the World! Play We've Got the World!" And he's like, "I'll play it at the end. Play it now." You're like, "I'm 2 songs into the set. It's 2 hours. Play it now and play it again."
You can play it twice. There's nothing in the rule book.
And as soon as he says it, as soon as he plays it once, you go, "Now again and then again." Just don't, like, you could.
I know. I said only twice, but just play it 3 times.
"I lied. There is no limit. We'd rather hear this. If you could just play this and then no limits." If they were Mickey Hart's only songs.
Well, so this is the start of the big schism for the original Mickey Hart. Cathal McInerney walks out of the Ballygawley board meeting, and that's it. The 100 or so households of Glencull had left the rest of the people of Ballygawley to their own devices. Families fell out over it. Marriages were put at risk. People avoided each other in the streets. It was a sad day for the parish.
How do you put the marriage at risk? Just
people would have been married from, like, well, previously there would have been no divide, but they'd be from other sides of the town. And now all of a sudden they're on the other side of a schism.
Ah, okay.
Imagine having to go home and look at your wife. Imagine having to go home and look your wife in the face, knowing full well
Lisa's in for a tough life. Imagine having to go home and look at your wife.
Jesus,
the hassle that these lads had to go through. Heroes amongst men.
Brave days they were. But people were from either side of what is now a divide. People say the top 2 things that put marriages under strain are finances, and then number 1 is GAA rivalries. Cheating at GAA, yes, yeah. When Meath knocked that square ball into the back.
No, it's cheating on your husband with one of the stars from the local rival GAA team. That's what really gets you.
Yeah, that's the real twist of the knife. But yeah, so in this town of Ballygawley, a town of about 4,000 people, you're now breaking an unwritten rule if you cross the line to go into, like, the other neighbouring pub. Of course, like, people still they kept up friendships, but by and large, even the people that did cross the line to go visit their friends, they'd never mentioned football when they're mixing in groups, which is a big deal for young lads from the country.
Could they mention soccer?
They could mention soccer, but it just wouldn't be the same. If you take GAA off the table, like, a lot of friendships were put under strain. Lads who've been mates for 10 years.
Trying to think, you're like, if you took GAA off the table, and my mind just wanders to Utopia. What? That's can we get rid of rugby next? That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, like, all of a sudden, they all got heavily invested in rugby just to talk. It's just for something to talk about. Well, I mean, I have friendships with lads that, like, if someone put us in a room, I have friends for like 10 years. If someone put us in a room, like, don't talk about pop culture.
Yeah. No, that would be...
Your second name's Brennan.
What?
Right?
What's your job again? What is it you do? I'm your brother. I know. I'm just saying. What's the?
Yeah.
I get you always confused with somebody else. I don't give a shit about.
I use that excuse all the time where someone asks me, like, what my friend's job is, and it's like, the modern world, like, everyone's job is so niche, it's hard to keep track. It's like they're a fucking teacher, or they're like
nurse,
a janitor. Like, they're very easy to understand jobs. They're like, I don't remember. I think that they work in Google, some high tech fluoride dispensary. You know how the modernity is. Like,
I just said media. I said media.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're like, it's
very
audio, it's video, it's photo. It doesn't matter if they're on the camera, behind the camera, or I'll use it as well. Just they're working in news agents. They're selling newspapers. That's media. They're working in media,
frontline media, media dispensary. So this is the start of it now. So Glencull's first act of autonomy, they try and affiliate independently back into the GAA. They want to get themselves established as a new club, separate from Ballygawley, but they can't because I don't really know why. I don't think they have the population or the financial resources to actually become a club. So they just survive on challenge matches from other teams and unofficial tournaments just to keep the players. Because so in this team, yeah, they've got Mickey Hart and Peter Canavan and a couple of the other Canavan brothers and some other up and coming players who now don't have a team to play for because they can't go back they can't go back to Ballygawley. So now they're just keeping themselves occupied with challenge matches. And because the lads from Glencoe were no longer playing for Ballygawley,
like a low level Kosovo.
Exactly. This is a Kosovo stage to Ballygawley, Serbia. What's
weird is now, there's going to be some soccer fans that listen to this who don't understand that, like the political joke there. They'll just go, I know, yeah, I get that. Just from football, it's like all of those players had to like it. The amount of history that guys will know about and women about like geography and the political unrest in countries just because of how it affects their football teams and like the fixtures that they're meant to play, and then it just sticks there forever.
I remember someone telling me I wanted to go to Kosovo when I was over that way, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. But someone told me that a load of the children a bit younger than us are all called Tony. They're all called Tony after Tony Blair, because like Blair helped sort that accord with Russia or whatever between to stop Serbia invading. And apparently loads of streets are called like Tony Blair Street and all this. Apparently there's even some kids called like Tony Blair, like just Tony Blair as the first name. But do you remember, I think it was a Vice documentary maybe, do you remember years ago 2 Irish lads moved to Kosovo and opened an unofficial embassy on the Embassy Row? Did you ever read that?
No, but that sounds like a Shite Talk upcoming video documentary.
Oh man, I'd love to get in touch with the 2 guys. There's an article from years ago, and they basically just like moved into a house beside the American embassy and set up the unofficial Irish embassy because there wasn't one there. And it was just like they just used to have all the local teens would come over and just like smoke joints and drink in the house because they couldn't do it anywhere else, and they were just like the kings of Kosovo for a while.
But I wonder if ever any Irishman ever went there. They just...
Oh yeah, people went to, and the Irish government kept sending them letters to be like, please stop pretending to be the embassy.
What do you
and
mean
like
pretending?
the American,
we are the embassy.
Yeah, that's what they're like. We are the unofficial embassy, and like the Americans kept giving out to them for having house party. They're like, you're on the cusp of starting a diplomatic event when you're like neighbors are all other embassies, and you've just got like a fucking Irish flag with a picture of Bono in the middle of it. But fair play to those guys, two legends. And the last memory I have of Kosovo is when myself and my friend Niall, who you've met, we were in Greece, and we went into a bar.
You say I've met him.
Kosovo.
I've met him once.
You met him once,
in passing.
So therefore you met him
in passing.
You hung out for like 2 days.
Yeah, but in passing.
But we went to a bar
met him
in Greece.
Myanmar. Kevin messaged me going, "Where are you in the world at the minute?" And I was like, Yangon, Myanmar. Why? He's like, my friend is like 10 minutes down the road. And then I met Niall, and he's great. And we went to go see like an opera or like a musical performance, and we had a couple of pints, and maybe a joint. It was a good night. It was a good night meeting. He's a lovely fella.
He is a lovely fella. And when he met you, he had long hair. And when we were in Greece, he had long hair. And we just walked into a bar, and there's a group of Irish soldiers who were on deployment in Kosovo. And they were like, they'd been drinking all night. We were there in the middle of the day the next day. They'd been there until about 12 o'clock, and they were just finishing up to go back to work in Kosovo. And the barman came over to myself and Niall and like tipped us on the shoulders like, these gentlemen have sent over shots. And then we looked over and it was like, to you and your wife. And they thought that like long-haired Niall was my wife. And they just... they didn't realize we were Irish until we came over, and then we had great crack with them. I hope they all made it back to defend the good people of Kosovo. They were pissed drunk, and they were all like, right, back into the truck and drive across the border to Kosovo.
Fair play to them. I will say real quick that is also... it's not so much Irish soldiers in Kosovo as just me drunkenly every so often catching from behind silent producer Dan. And you just...
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
Who? Oh, I thought we were at a house party full of lads, but who's this woman? Oh, no, it's Dan. It's Dan. He's just the slender-hipped, the svelte-looking, long-haired Dan.
Yeah, but so this is exactly what's happening here. This is Glencoe and Ballygawley is the Kosovo Serbia of Tyrone at the time. So the guys from Glencoe they don't have an official team to play for. They can't play for the Ballygawley team, which means that they can play for county. They're not eligible. And for many, the low point in the schism came 4 years into it. So 4 years after Mickey Hart was sent off, Tyrone reached the All-Ireland final for the first time ever in 1986, only to be beaten by Kerry. And lads were looking on. they couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if the likes of Peter Canavan or Mickey Hart had been on the pitch.
I believe it's pronounced the great Peter Canavan.
The great Peter Canavan. Well, that's because at this point, he's gotten even better, and even though he's not playing for the team, like the lads of Ballygawley know what he's capable of. And to get to the All-Ireland, so at some point in the game, they're 7 points ahead, and then they manage to lose by 8 points. I think that the final score is 2-15 to Kerry, 1-10 to Tyrone. But like, this is the first time I think they're properly questioning what they've done. They walked away from Glencoe, and it felt good at the time, but here they are 4 years later, losing badly in the All-Ireland final when one of their great rising stars has been locked out of the game.
Yeah.
But it's not, but then, as we were saying earlier on, county level, that's one thing. But Ballygawley also missed out on championships, club championships themselves. So 7 years after the schism, they reached the county final in 1989 and were beaten by Coal Island. And again, the fans are wondering what they could have done if they got the boost of extra players from Glencoe. Like, they're only playing with 3/4 of their resources at this time.
I was just say, for any of our American listeners, or anyone in Ireland who doesn't know or knows about as much as I do, Peter Canavan is like known as one of the best footballers of all time. Like, it's not like, oh, he's just very good at this time period. It's like, no, he's legitimately, like, he played as a full forward and he's tiny. Like, he's like he's so skillful and technical that it's on another level. And you look at him and he's like a short, not particularly stocky, bald man that looks like this lad's probably sinking 15 pints a weekend. But turns out, no, he's just an incredible professional who's very talented.
So that really drives home the point that, like, 7 years. So he just hasn't had a team to play for 7 years because of this thing. And now they're after losing the county final when one of the greatest players of all time is right there. But they're just got too damn stubborn to reach across the divide. 9 years into the schism, Glencoe start fundraising to help their bid for GAA recognition. They managed to get 30,000 together, £30,000 old money, and they decide to keep going. Like, they've been at this for 9 years trying to get themselves recognised as a team separate from Ballygawley so that they can start playing properly again. The 50 to 60 people are showing up, but they have occasional meetings to discuss the plans for the team. 50 to 60 people doesn't sound like that much, but it is probably about half of Glencoe.
Before you'd said that, I was like 50 or 60 lads showing up for training. Jesus, you get 2 teams going. And then you're like showing up to the meetings. I'm like, so there's 4 lads under the age of 42. You've got about 27 lads over the age of 85 who don't understand what phones are. They're just kind of like, they still believe that the GAA is the most important thing in the world. There's
definitely. I don't even think they had enough
driving pints down the village on a Friday and Saturday, GAA matches on a Sunday. What more could you want from your weekend?
Yeah,
I say that as the audio, you can probably hear me clink bottles as I'm recording this podcast.
I wish I had the GAA on the Sunday. So for 9 years now, they've applied for recognition to be their own team, and for 9 years they've been rejected. But they keep playing away just for the love of the game. There was no shortage of challenge matches because the other clubs around Tyrone liked the idea of keeping Ballygawley in a weakened state, so they were happy enough to keep playing Glencoe if it meant that, like, the 2 teams wouldn't reconcile and they would keep Ballygawley easier to beat.
And I imagine it's a friendly match, so you get to play their really good players. So it's still like, if you're whoever is marking Peter Canavan gets to mark Peter Canavan.
Exactly, yeah.
It's like that time Sean O'Brien played for the Fighting Cocks against Loughlin Bridge in an intermediate football match.
It's exactly like that time.
It actually could have even been Junior B. I'm not sure, maybe possibly Junior A if we were doing well at the time. But the lads say that he went on and that he hopped the ball twice without soloing it, and then one of the lads said it to the ref, and the ref told him to go fuck himself. He just told him to fuck off. It's Sean O'Brien. He's just there now.
Yeah.
Let him do what he wants.
He can do what he wants.
He doesn't have to hop or solo it. He can just rugby run it into the, like, he can dive into the goal and touch it down like a try and just be like, yeah, whatever, call it a fucking basket. I don't give a shit. It's Sean O'Brien.
Referee's got to hurl. Right, that's it. You're off.
It's like, look, if we're not going to
squealing on O'Brien,
we're not going to give out to him for pissing in student bins in Carlow, we're not going to give out to him for not respecting the rules of the GAA in an amateur, nothing, pointless match.
Exactly. So yeah, they're playing The other club teams of Tyrone and Friendlies, they played every team in Fermanagh twice. They were travelling even as far as Armagh to play teams there. And it was from Armagh, Jason, that their saviour came. Father Sean Hegarty.
Do you mean a divine intervention?
That's exactly what's happening at this point in the story. Hegarty had spent most of the 80s managing the Armagh team until he moved to his new parish of Ballygawley. Hegarty had a love of the game himself and made it his mission to fix the schism. He got to know people on both sides of the divide and then soon identified the most charismatic men on either side. He'd chosen Barney Horsk in Ballygawley and Sean Canavan in Glencoe. They're both GAA nuts that people naturally gravitated towards. And Sean Canavan was the father of Peter Canavan and Barry Canavan and all the Canavans, in fact. While Barney Horsk was the sort of man you could just have a pint with. From the sounds of it, he was just one of those ale lads who had an open door policy. People would be wandering in and out of his house chatting about games. He volunteered on the grounds and he'd be there every night turning off the floodlights and then in the morning setting up cones. And all the young players loved him apparently because he'd go to bat for them against management. He'd go up and start charming the board into letting the fella off for a holiday or, excusing him for having a few too many pints the night before.
Allowing him to see his children the week leading up to a game.
Exactly. That sort of, for God, he hasn't seen his daughter in about 4 weeks there. Would you let him out for half an hour? He'll be back in time. I'll keep an eye on him.
And he just went straight down and had pints.
Of course, obviously. That was everyone knew at the time. Seeing your daughter was code for that double Bacardi and Coke. They drink fancy up there, I don't know. But so with these two men as his main focus, Father Hegarty starts working on his big scheme, which is pretty straightforward. His idea was just to flat out lie to everyone involved.
Wait, the church?
Yeah, well, listen, he went to the church and asked their advice and was like, well, what about if you just lie to everybody?
And they were like, wait, hold on, what?
We can cover it up.
What have they done? It's like, we've been excommunicated from the local football team. It's like, well, have you tried sending the team to Africa, maybe? Have you tried maybe sending them to a very rural village in Africa where they can train GAA and have nobody ever talk about their training GAA exploits?
There's a couple of, troublesome members saying some things. Just send them off to Africa.
Well, it's like I hear Boston's a lovely place. You should send them over there and start the GAA over in Boston is what you should do. There should be whole generations of Irish youth manipulated and mangled in Boston. All in the name of kicking points.
So Hegarty's big plan, he'd start going to one end of the town and he'd mention at a meeting there or in a pub that the other side's hurting bad. They're sick of this divide and they're ready to talk. And then you go to the other side and it's like the guys back there are hurting. Oh. They're looking for.
And you lock them in a room together and then
yes.
And over the space of 12 hours you force them to murder each other until one of them is the eventual winner, and then they're right in the eyes of history.
Exactly. But I'm picturing he's just hanging around the back of meetings and then just talking to lads, sidling up to lads and being like, they're ready to talk. The other side, they're coming to me. They're telling me how much they miss you guys. They want to get the whole team back together. They're just too proud to say it to you. But trust me, it's there. And then he go to the other side of the divide and start saying the same thing. And he started inviting men from both sides to meetings at his house. And later on, Cathal McIlerney would say that he got us all together in his house, and not too late in the evening, he said he had an early start the next day and asked us all to leave. He said to me afterwards that he went upstairs and looked out the window, and when we were all standing on the road discussing what had gone on, he knew he had us then. We were standing talking together.
Oh.
So he's just scheming and getting everyone into the room together again to start chatting about GAA, and then all of a sudden he's rekindling the old fires 9 years after the original,
which is mad, because if they just had have done this the first week after it happened, they probably could have.
It's insane.
These men, just for how big is this town population wise? Is it
4,000 people?
So they would have definitely been seeing each other constantly for 9 years in the pub, probably chatting about the GAA, probably chatting about this very same thing.
No, they would have been too proud. The whole thing is a lot of them would walk across the other side of the streets and avoid the men from the other side.
I'd believe that as well.
And even the ones that didn't come.
I would believe that as well, but I reckon there's probably another 30 or 40% of the team that are this is a bit ridiculous.
Oh, definitely. When Tyrone lost the All-Ireland, especially when Ballygawley lost the club championship, there were definitely if we just bury the hatchet, we could be one again. But I don't know. They're all too proud. You'd easily believe that these men were too proud for 9 years to actually just talk about it.
I know, but now all I can think of is that them two meeting outside, those two groups of men meeting outside, and that manager looking down at the two of them chatting, and then just, I need some love like I never needed love before. Wanna make love to your baby. I had a little
He was,
love,
yeah.
and now I'm back for more. I feel like it's all coming together. It's happening again. They're rekindling the spark.
I'd imagine he just sat them all down. They're all like giving each other dirty looks and spitting and mumbling to each other. And Father Haggerty was just like, "Yeah, Jesus, there's awful dirty players in that Armagh team." And then that would just sort of like spark conversation. Yeah, just don't you hate the dirty dubs? And then just let them at it.
Oh, literally just held up a photo of a Dublin jersey.
But so the seeds have been planted now. Barney Horsk was won over by Father Haggerty. He started preaching the good word to the people of Ballygawley. He knew that after 1989 they weren't that far off a county title, and with the Glencull lads on the side, he was sure that they'd do it. Peter Canavan started spinning the same tales of glory in Glencull. If they put this madness behind them, they could be part of a county winning team. And so, after many, many, many meetings in 1991, the new team of Errigal Ciaran was created out of the two old sides. They added a bit of gold from Glencull to the old blue and white flag as a sign that this was a new team. And what a team it was. The merger paid off almost immediately, with the new club becoming the first Tyrone club to win the Ulster Senior Football Championship 2 years later in 1993. They'd also go on to win the county title in 94, 97, 2000, 2002, 2006, 2012. And in 2002, they also won the Ulster County final for the second time. And in 2003, Tyrone won its first ever All-Ireland Championship, with the team being captained by Peter Canavan and under the management of Mickey Hart. Two Glencull men who, one of whom had been the catalyst, like Mickey Hart had been the catalyst for the split in the first place. Yeah,
I remember that because he's like, that's where I know him from years ago. I'm not a tall man, but I remember seeing a lad playing it like full forward. I think he was like a number 14 or close enough to it, but he's like 5'7" or 5'8", and he's like revered as like he's the man, he's the best fella, and you're like, he's tiny and he looks like not in great shape, and again he's bald. Not that makes a difference, but it's not like The Rock bald. It's like the lad down the pub at the end of the bar on his own kind of bald. And you're like, I don't understand. But I remember seeing him going like, all right, sport is for everyone. Anyone can be, with talent and effort, you can be good enough.
I've just looked it up here, and he's 5'8", and under his nickname section on Wikipedia, it's Peter the Great and Petrol Pete, which I wish I'd known about Petrol Pete at the start of this, because I would have rewritten the entire script. But another Ballygawley player, Podge Quinn, would later say, "The years of the split were as hard as any individual wanted to make them. The fact that we came together showed that there was a lot of common ground and respect amongst everybody." Which is insane that it took them 9 years to be like, you know what, there was a lot of common ground between me and the people who live in the same fucking town and also just love GAA. You know, when we got down to it, it turned out that there was a lot to talk about there, a lot of respect.
Yeah, within the radius of the town, there were actually an awful lot of people who enjoyed the same thing. Is what it was.
Yeah, but now, so this is all set. All this happened during the Troubles. So it took the two sides of the same fucking town 9 years to realise that they could live in coexistence. I don't know what hope there was for them ever reconciling with Protestants. Like, this is
no, God, like, no, it's never.
They fell out with themselves, and it took them the guts of a decade to get back together. And meanwhile, everyone in Stormont was trying to like make peace and get the two sides. They had no hope.
Also, maybe that's why the Troubles lasted that long, because there was just so many people obsessed with the GAA. And they were like, wait, what's going on? Do you not understand that Glencull are not playing for our team?
17 men have just been shot in Antrim Town. What are you talking about? There's important things happening here. Mickey Hart was sent off unfairly 5 years ago, and I can't see the mother of my children because she lives on the wrong side of Ballygawley.
The crack. GAA, fair play to them.
Yeah, so I put a bit in here. Yeah, so this is basically what you were talking about earlier on, but I put a bit in about what Sigmund Freud called Der Nazimus der kleinen Differences, or the narcissism of small differences, which is exactly what you were talking about earlier. It's just, in order to make yourself more of an individual, you despise what's right beside you.
Yeah, which is
even though it's the
same reason that, like, when you're younger, you probably would have been the same as myself, that, like, growing up in a smaller town, Ireland, that you want to be, no, I listen to American music and I like the arts and all of these other things, but realistically, you know that you also just love trad and Guinness and those things. You just
yeah, exactly.
You're not that different.
You're striving to be an individual. It's the same. It's the reason why, like, Dundalk hates Drogheda or
Loughlin hates Bagnallstown.
Exactly. I was in Achill there a few weeks ago, and, like, Achill is not a big place, and there was a Gaeltacht there somewhere, and we were asking someone about where the Gaeltacht was, and they were like, "Oh, I don't know, that's in the far sides of the mountain. Like, they wouldn't be proper Achill people now." And it's like the 10 people that live half an hour down there, and are probably some of the only people that know what it's like to live on Achill Island, and you're still like, they're a different breed. They're a different folk over there.
Yeah, I love it though. That's what makes us us.
Yeah.
But what is it also that Freud? Freud also said about the Irish, that he's like, there's only one group of people in the world that you can't psychoanalyze, and it's Irish men.
Yeah, pretty sure he never said that. But
no. We've decided.
We've
decided to start saying it, and it's true. But it's the same as, like, any of those stupid, like, what's that one that's always accredited to Einstein? The definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Firstly, that's not the definition of madness. And secondly, Einstein's never said that. That's never been attributed to him. It's just like, here's this saying that people have said for years, and if I attribute it to Albert Einstein, then it seems more credible.
It's got more weight behind it.
No, the definition of madness is far too varied, given the fact that we have, like, thousands of different diseases. For, like, what you're thinking of is, like, OCD. That's what you're basically thinking.
But, you know, in an attempt to create an identity for yourself, you'll pick up on small differences. I overheard some people arguing about, like, the differences between, like, what's the best fry? The Ulster fry, Irish fry, English fry. I think there's a Scottish variation as well. And they were like, oh man, you're way off. You gotta put the potato farrell on the left side of the plate. And just, like, these men had argued to their dying day which is the best one, but, like, to someone from South Africa, it's the same it's essentially the same meal. Like, it's just 4 fries.
Yeah, it's slight variations of the exact same thing.
Yeah, and that's our entire life. But so that's pretty much the end of the story. So that same Mickey Hart is, as of 2020, the manager of the Louth senior football team. Oh. So we're going on to great things. My dad was telling me, he actually sent me on this story, so props to him for that.
Shout out Kevin's dad.
He said he saw, like, Mickey Hart come in to give, through his work, like, he came in to give an inspirational speech or whatever at some time in the 2000s. It must have been after 2003 when they won the All-Ireland. And, you know, lads are excited to see him, and we're asking him questions, and apparently someone was like, if you had the pick of the country to assemble your dream GAA team, like, living or dead, anyone from any part of the county, any time period, who would you pick? Dream GAA team. And apparently he was like, I'd probably just stick with the same team. Next question. And he was just doing, like, and someone was like,
just phoning it in.
Some big match.
Just like,
just phoning it in. There was some big match between Leinster and Munster coming up. I was like, and who would you be rooting for in that? I was like, yeah, I don't watch other sports. Next question. Just, like, plowing through them. But he said, yeah, Dad said the only good bit of advice that he gave that day was, like, there's no point getting mad on the sidelines. Like, you've been the coach for months. If they're not doing their job right on the day, you had your chance. It's your job to either, like, take them off or try better next time, but there's no point losing the plot there and then, which I feel like that's some good advice for life.
That feels like great advice. I also reckon you could get a smash cut together there of him losing the plot at players.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
He's saying, I'm not saying I didn't do it. I'm saying there's no point in doing it. I'm saying I would do it 5 times a game.
Yeah. But I just really, really liked the idea because it was some corporate event and he was clearly like getting paid a bundle to be there and just phoning it in to the max.
I have no problem with that at all. I say we do it when we do corporate things. We phone it in.
No, we don't.
Corporate gigs, everyone. What? No.
Jason means we do it over the phone.
I've heard of story. I've heard like accounts of people going to like GAA benefits or the dances at the end of the year and stuff, and because it's like local area and people have money, or even the county ones and stuff, that people throw stupid money at stuff, and what they need is like local Irish things because it's the GAA. So if we need a comedian, so like, can you think, Kev, of a stand-up comic who's known as like the GAA stand-up comic?
Rory Story.
Well, I was going to say that there's an online someone who I wouldn't call a stand-up, but I just, and that's no offense to him, but just like I was going to say, maybe rhymes with stories, Rory's, but
the two Johnnies.
Yeah, like, it's that kind of stuff, and it's like you can just go down and just okay, what are 15 questions? All right, who's the fast player from the team? Okay, who's the slow player? Or who's the lad who's a bit chubby? And then you go up on the stage, you're like, eating too many chicken fillet rolls. Oh, I know what that's like. Johnny over here, is it? Or Mark over here, always late to training. Oh my God, he understands everything. And you're like, yeah,
he said the names.
Yeah, he did the stuff. And you're like, yeah, and also more power to him. Fair, because there's no other. I can't think of a stand-up who does that. So you should go make all that money. And also, those people don't want to see stand-up. They want to see that. So.
Exactly. Look at this guy. He thinks he's from Glencullen, but he's acting like he's from fucking Ballygawley. Whoa!
Look at this young lad. Oh, is he going up to college in Dublin? Oh, he lost the run of himself. Listen to the accent. He'll
be wearing a scarf
next.
He's
been there for 2 weeks. He's literally, he just dropped his clothes there and came home to play a match. And he's like, he's notions, notions, with his coffees.
Never the same.
Not tea like the local boys. Lattes.
He knows.
But yeah.
Yeah. And then going behind stage and ordering like high-end whiskey and a macchiato to go. So we all I don't know how to. I have no idea how to bridge this because I forgotten about this. I could half remember it when I came across it, but I was reading about Mickey Hart then. And do you remember like his daughter was murdered in 2011? Do you remember that?
Was it the Bally Boys?
No, she was on her honeymoon in Mauritius and was like...
Oh, the Mauritius murder. I didn't know that was... What?
Yeah.
What?
That's
that
Mickey Hart's daughter.
I was young enough at the time, I guess, but like...
Yeah.
I say, you said 2011. I was going to say, sorry, I wasn't young at the time. I was in a college course studying journalism. That's...
Yeah.
If there was ever... Okay, it's going to sound really bad. I hope that murder happened before September... Because if it was like September 2011, I was like, oh no, I was definitely studying journalism. I should have been reading the news.
Yeah.
Are you Googling it now to see if I was just a terrible student? Because I can give you the answer for that right now.
It was, it was January 2011.
Okay, well then I was busy getting ready for my mock exams.
Yeah, Michaela McAreevy.
Oh, sure, she would have just had the married name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking, I don't know. I was saying this to Lisa last night. I was like, fucking, that's like the worst thing. That's the worst thing about it is that they would think it was him. She's like, that's not the worst thing about it. She's dead. I was like, no. The worst thing about it is that they think it's him. Because I can identify with that. I can't identify with being a dead
and also
wife,
you could move on from your dead wife. You can never move on from someone thinking you're a murderer.
No, like you're the number one suspect. I was like,
you can't murder again to get over the first murder, but you could remarry.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't even want to. I don't know. I don't even want to joke about this because it's genuinely.
I know that.
I
think that's the difference between us. That's the very reason why I want to do it, because it makes me feel more calm and comfortable. It's like otherwise it just feels very unsettling, and I don't feel comfortable. I'm like, what if I just, as a defense mechanism, make a bunch of negative jokes? Like that would be the best way to deal with this. But that was a weird story. Should we ruin the podcast by going into it?
I didn't really research much of it. Maybe I don't know. To be honest, it's too fucking
it's morbid.
Dark. No one got some people, or I think 3 people got charged for it, but no one. Or sorry, like they went to court, but then no one was charged in the end. So no one ever went to prison for it. One guy confessed to it, but then he said the police beat the shit out of him for the confession. And I think maybe like I saw something from like June this year that the Mauritius government were going to look back into it again. So. I don't know. It's still like an ongoing case so she basically, the two, her and her new husband were like downstairs having tea. She went up to the room to get biscuits and was strangled. He came
And
in
how
and found her
long?
dead.
Like 10 minutes, 15 minutes? Like how long?
Yeah, like 10. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, like fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
And like there's no suspects now. Well, I guess there's suspects or whatever. But I tried to get Lisa to write a note to be like, if she's ever found murdered, that it wasn't me. But she maintains that just makes me look more guilty.
And she'd be right.
No, if I have solid evidence, if I have a bit of paper saying if I'm found dead, it definitely wasn't Kevin J. Larney, I am in the clear. No one's going to suspect me of anything because I didn't do anything.
I mean, I'm going to back you up. No offense, Lisa. I'll help him bury the body. This podcast is the only thing I have currently going. It's a positive thing in my life. I don't want to see that go away. I'm known it's not worth it for me.
Thank you. But what about this? This is fun. All right. Speaking of Louth GAA, there's a man called Dermot O'Brien who captained Louth to their last All-Ireland win to date back in 1957. And then afterwards, his band, Dermot O'Brien and the Clubmen, had a #1 hit with a cover of The Merry Ploughboy, which is a song about joining the IRA. And it reached the top of the charts and stayed there for 6 weeks in like 1966. Just before the Troubles kicked off, he was singing songs about joining the old IRA. But he's possibly the greatest Irish man of all time. Captaining, that's the dream. Captaining your small county team to victory, and then afterwards having a career as like a talented trad musician.
Glenn Hoddle, Chris Waddle, Diamond Lights.
Are these names of albums?
Or Paul Gascoigne, Fog in the Tyne is all mine, all mine. These are famous English soccer players who also had short-lived, successful music careers. Glenn Hoddle and Chris Waddle were on top of the pops, I think.
Fair enough.
Like playing for the England national team and also trying to have a music career.
Yeah, well, this is after. Imagine this is just a great life well lived. But I remember reading an interesting article about like, I guess it is funny to. It'd be like if someone got to the top of if like the Mary Wallopers got to the top of the charts now with a song about joining the IRA, and then in 2 years like the North devolved into civil war again. Like he released a song in 1966, and then the Troubles like really kicked off the next decade. You'd be like, yeah, it was a bit fun when I said it. It's like now when people say up the rat, it's a meme. But if the IRA actually did come back, it wouldn't be as funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, a lot of the stuff we've said in this podcast would seem odd if we ever actually did go into war with England.
Yeah, it would be like we should not do that. It would be very like that's why it's a comedy podcast.
Yeah, it's a fun idea to write a song about joining the RA, but then when the IRA actually starts back up again, you're like, nah, maybe not.
Or you never know, you could a successful music career launched off the back of it.
That's true. Well, so here's the closing question, which we talked about earlier on. Would you rather see... Yeah, so the question was, would you rather see your county win the All-Ireland or Ireland win the Euros? Initially, the original question was Ireland to win the World Cup. And yeah, I don't know if for the Euros, I think my logic was that, like, you know, the scenes would be amazing. People would be out in the streets. It'd be fantastic. Not a tap of work would be done for days, weeks. But eventually that would die down, and then you're just the same as everyone else. But if Louth wins the All-Ireland, you can hold on to that like a nugget of gold for years to come.
No.
Because if Ireland wins the Euros, we all win the Euros. And then, like, what difference does it make? But if Louth wins the All-Ireland,
then
that's something. You can imagine going home to the parish, getting the fucking red and white flag out, which is the same flag that half the goddamn teams have, and the sense of pride, the scenes in Dundalk.
We would still have that sense of pride with Ireland doing something on a national level. Like, the problem with the GAA is that, like, if you're that talented of an athlete, if you're so good at rugby or soccer or any other athletic thing where you can be a professional in it, an awful lot of those guys transition into that anyway, and they can say they don't for all they want, but realistically, if you're offered a chance to go play football at 14 years of age, going over to like a trial in England, you're going to do it, because the GAA is the best of the guys who weren't natural beasts at other sports, and then also worked really hard and are very good at it. But it's like, come on, that's the equivalent of like Americans who get super pumped about baseball. You're like, yeah, well, you do know that most places don't play that. Or even in the Olympics that just went by, like, yeah, America just won basketball. They beat France by like 10 points. Realistically, they should be beating France by like, it should be like 110-4.
I know what you're saying, and I don't know. There's just something I did
am
see.
so staunchly a Republic of Ireland football fan that like I don't have anything else. Even when it comes to the Olympics, I don't give a shit. I don't care about the Six Nations. I don't care about boxing, maybe, or whatever. And I'll support people. It's not like I'm rooting against Irish people, but like I'm not going to start supporting a sport I don't care about just because it's someone Irish involved.
That's fair. But similar to, I guess, a lot of the themes we were talking about there, did you see that on Reddit on Or Ireland over the last year where they were doing like a county vote out, where like every day they just voted out whatever county got the most votes got kicked out, just to see what was, I suppose, either the most popular county in Ireland or the least unpopular.
Okay.
Which is different. But I remember reading a comment that when Louth got kicked out eventually, I say eventually, I don't know where it was, one of the top comments. First day, but one of the top ones was just like, I'm from Dundalk, but I kick it out just to see Drogheda go. I feel like
that is.
So I feel like even lads would be like, I can't fully root for Louth to win the All Ireland because I'd be sick knowing the boys from Drogheda would be celebrating.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of small town Ireland. What was the term Freud had there?
Yeah, the narcissism of small differences.
That the wankers next door theory.
Yeah, I'd rather my team lose just so that the town down the road can't win. You
could either win for enjoyment or lose out of spite, and I think we all know what we would go for.
There you go. Have you got any other points about the schism of...
No, overall, I would say my only point is that even though I do make jokes a lot of the time about like feck the GAA or a lot of it's all just for you enjoy whatever you like. Everyone in the world should do whatever they like as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. And Sean O'Brien shouldn't be allowed to hop the ball twice without being called up on it by the referee. Like it's nonsense.
It is nonsense.
You, as the referee, you should call it and then get to the rest of your life. Go, one time, when you're down the pub, you go, one time I called up Sean O'Brien, fucking big balls O'Brien coming in there, thinking he doesn't have to step toe into the lines of the rules and regulations of the sport. Well, I said to him, Sean, foul. that was I should have took some breath before I tried to whistle. It was at the end of a sentence and it just kind of sounded like a bit of a low force gale.
I called him up and I said, I don't care who you are, you come onto my pitch, you play by the rules, and they're not my rules. I had said that's it. They're the GAA rules.
One of the lads told me that one of the boys from the town, Bobo, was like, I'm going to he lined him up for a shoulder and he just ran into him full pelt and just bounced off him, and then and then Brian was like, come on, if you're going to do it, fucking do it. And then he ran into him again. The same thing just happened. So don't mess with Lions international rugby players. They're big boys.
Yeah.
Can't play GAA worth a shite though. Just sticking it in there.
Yeah. All right, well that's it. That was the story.
That was us. That's for Kevin's first ever sport story.
Jeez. Is that true?
Yeah.
I suppose it is.
Yeah. Finishing off 6 seasons.
Look at that. It turns out you don't need to know anything about sport to write a story about something tangentially related to sport. All right. Good luck.
Chapter. See you next week.